License and registration.
I'm happy to comply. May I ask why I'm being stopped?
Step out of the vehicle.
I haven't broken any laws. Am I being detained?
You fit the description.
Of what?
Someone we're looking into.
And then I'd like to know the legal basis for this stop.
You got papers on you?
The flashing blue lights came out of nowhere. 1 second, attorney Alina Whitfield was driving down Peachtree Street in downtown Atlanta, thinking about the immigration hearing she had just finished winning. The next second, an unmarked SUV cut in front of her, forcing her to slam on her brakes. 2 men stepped out. One wore tactical gear with bold yellow letters across his chest. ICE. People on the sidewalk slowed down. Phones came out. And in less than 30 seconds, a respected black attorney in Georgia was being treated like a suspect in broad daylight. Before we go any further, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. And if you believe stories like this need to be told fully and honestly, hit subscribe right now. What happens next will shock you. Alina sat still in her driver's seat. She kept both hands on the steering wheel. She had represented dozens of families against immigration and customs enforcement. She knew how this worked. But this felt different. One of the agents approached her window. His name tag read Agent Brent Calloway. Mid-40s, sharp jaw, cold eyes, the kind of man who believed his badge gave him full control. He knocked twice on her window. Alina rolled it down halfway. License and registration, he said. His tone wasn't polite. It wasn't neutral. It was sharp, demanding. I'm happy to comply, Alina said calmly. May I ask the reason for the stop? Calloway didn't answer the question. Step out of the vehicle. There was no traffic violation, no broken taillight, no speeding, nothing. I haven't broken any laws, Alina replied evenly. Am I being detained? Calloway leaned slightly closer. You fit the description, he said. Of what? She asked. He paused. Someone we're looking into. The second agent stood near the back of the car, hand resting near his belt. His name was Travis Boone. He scanned the crowd forming on the sidewalk. Alina slowly stepped out of her car. She wore a navy blue suit, court heels, her bar badge clipped inside her purse. She had just walked out of federal court less than 20 minutes earlier, where she had argued a case against ICE on behalf of a detained asylum seeker. She had won a temporary release order. Now ICE was standing in front of her. Calloway looked her up and down. You from around here? He asked. Alina blinked once. I was born in Savannah. I practiced law in this state. He smirked slightly. Savannah, huh? The crowd was growing. A young man across the street started recording. Alina stayed steady. She had been here before. Not exactly like this, but close. As a black woman attorney who specialized in civil rights and immigration defense, she had dealt with hostility, side eyes, and quiet disrespect. But this felt personal. Calloway stepped closer. You got papers on you. The words hung in the air. Some people gasped. Alina didn't react right away. I beg your pardon, she asked, her voice level. Identification, Calloway said. Proof you're here legally. The silence that followed was heavy. Boone shifted his stance but said nothing. Alina slowly reached into her purse and pulled out her Georgia driver's license. Then she pulled out her State Bar of Georgia ID. She handed both to Calloway. He glanced at them. Then he looked back at her face. You a lawyer? He asked, as if the idea offended him. Yes, she said, I am. He stared at the bar card longer than necessary. Immigration? He asked. Yes. That's when his expression changed. Recognition. He had seen her before. You're the one from this morning, he said. Alina said nothing. Calloway's jaw tightened. You think you're real clever, don't you? She kept her voice calm. I believe in the Constitution. Boone finally spoke. She just got someone released, he muttered. Calloway shot him a quick look. The tension shifted. This wasn't about a traffic stop. This wasn't random. This was retaliation. Calloway handed her license back, but kept the bar ID in his hand for a moment longer. You people always think you can play both sides, he said quietly. The phrase hit hard. You people. The crowd murmured. Alina's heartbeat was steady. She knew every word was being recorded. Agent Calloway, she said clearly, reading his name aloud. Am I free to go? He stared at her. For a moment, it looked like he might push further. His jaw flexed. Then he tossed the bar ID back at her. Get out of here, he said. Alina didn't move immediately. I need confirmation, she said. Am I being detained? Calloway stepped back. You're free to go. She picked up her ID calmly, walked back to her car, and got inside. Before she closed the door, Calloway leaned toward the window one last time. You might win in court, he said low enough that only she could hear. But don't forget who controls the streets. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. Alina closed the door. She drove off slowly. Her hands did not shake, but her mind was racing. This had crossed the line. This was not a misunderstanding. This was intimidation. Public intimidation. And it was caught on camera. 3 different angles. As she turned onto the highway, her phone began buzzing. Notifications. Messages. Missed calls. Someone had already uploaded the video. By the time she reached her office in Midtown Atlanta, the clip had been shared hundreds of times. By nightfall, it would be thousands. And within 48 hours, it would spark something much bigger than Agent Calloway ever expected. Because what he didn't know was simple. Alina Whitfield did not scare easily, and she did not let things go. By the end of that week, a federal complaint would be filed. By the end of the year, a courtroom in Georgia would hear testimony that would shake an entire regional ICE office. And by the time the verdict was read, the number attached to her name would be exactly $12.9 million. But the real fight, was only beginning. By the next morning, the video had crossed state lines. It wasn't just Atlanta watching anymore. It was Savannah, Macon, Birmingham, Charlotte, then Washington. News pages reposted it. Legal blogs broke it down frame by frame. Civil rights groups demanded answers. And the words that echoed the loudest were simple and clear. You got papers on you? 4 words. 4 words spoken to a black attorney in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Alina Whitfield did not rush to social media. She did not cry on camera. She did not hold a press conference that same day. She went to work. Her office sat on the 14th floor of a glass building overlooking Midtown. Inside, her team was already waiting when she walked in. Naomi Clark, her senior associate. Irene Wallace, litigation specialist. And Julian Price, a former federal clerk who now handled research. They had printed screenshots of the video. They had transcripts. They had timestamps. Alina placed her purse down and looked at the frozen image on the screen. Agent Brent Calloway leaning toward her window. This wasn't random, Naomi said. I know, Alina replied. Julian spoke next. He recognized you. You can see the exact moment. His posture shifts. Irene nodded. And when he says, you people, that's intent. Alina removed her jacket and sat down. This isn't about feelings, she said. This is about proof. They began building the case that morning. Unlawful stop. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights. Retaliation for protected legal advocacy. Equal protection violation. Public humiliation and professional harm. They would not make this emotional. They would make it airtight. By noon, major outlets were requesting statements. One local reporter, Graham Fulton, had already run the headline. Georgia immigration attorney confronted by IC after winning case. But the story changed by evening. A second angle of the video surfaced. This one captured Calloway more clearly. It picked up something the first video barely caught. You people always think you can play both sides. That line spread fast. Civil rights organizations reached out to Alina directly. The Georgia chapter of a national legal defense group offered support. Community leaders demanded a federal investigation. Meanwhile, inside the regional ICE office, the mood was different. Calloway wasn't panicking. He was angry. In a closed-door meeting, his supervisor, Director Alan Rhodes, sat across from him. What were you thinking? Rhodes asked. It was a stop, Calloway replied flatly. She's a licensed attorney, so what? Rhodes leaned back in his chair. So what? He repeated. Calloway's voice lowered. She interferes with operations. She twists things. She makes us look like villains. Rhodes' expression hardened. That doesn't give you the right to create exposure for this office. Calloway crossed his arms. She plays both sides. Rhodes stood up. She defends clients. That's her job. Calloway didn't respond. But he didn't apologize either. Back at Alina's office, the complaint draft was taking shape. They didn't exaggerate. They didn't speculate. They laid out facts. Time of stop, 3:42 p.m. Location, Peachtree Street, downtown Atlanta. No traffic violation cited. No warrant. No probable cause. Public demand for papers. Retaliatory language referencing court proceedings. Intentional intimidation. By day 3, they had something stronger. An internal source reached out anonymously. Julian received the email. Subject line, you should see this. Attached was a screenshot of a group message between agents from earlier that week. Calloway had written, "She thinks court wins mean something. Let's see how confident she feels outside the courtroom." The message was dated the night before the stop. Silence filled the office when they read it. Naomi looked up slowly. "That's premeditated." Alina nodded once. "That's retaliation." They verified the metadata. It checked out. This changed everything. By Friday morning, the federal civil rights complaint was officially filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. The defendants, Agent Brent Calloway, Agent Travis Boone, and the regional supervisory chain. The lawsuit demanded accountability. Not revenge. Not headlines. Accountability. The number attached to the filing raised eyebrows. $12.9 million in damages. Some critics said it was too high. Others said it wasn't enough. But the figure wasn't random. Lost professional contracts, security costs, emotional distress, punitive damages, and one clear message: public abuse of power has consequences. Within hours of filing, Calloway was placed on administrative leave. Boone remained active but under review. Director Rhodes released a short statement. "We are aware of the allegations and are cooperating fully." It was carefully worded. But inside the building, tension grew. Because the anonymous source hadn't stopped. More messages surfaced. Comments about making examples. Comments about teaching lessons. And buried in one exchange was something worse. A remark Calloway made 2 weeks earlier. "These lawyers forget what they are." The words weren't finished in the message. But they didn't need to be. The undertone was obvious. When reporters asked Alina whether she believed the stop was racially motivated, she answered calmly, "The evidence will speak." She did not shout. She did not accuse wildly. She let the filings do the talking. Court dates were scheduled quickly due to public interest. The defense attempted to dismiss the case, claiming national security discretion. The judge denied that motion. Discovery would proceed. Depositions were ordered. Calloway would have to testify under oath. That's when the real pressure began. Because under oath, anger doesn't help. Under oath, excuses collapse. And under oath, recorded words don't disappear. As deposition date approached, Atlanta buzzed. Community members planned to attend hearings. Law students studied the filings. Civil rights attorneys across the country watched closely. Alina prepared quietly. She reviewed every second of the video again. Not with emotion, with strategy. Because this was no longer about a street stop. This was about exposing intent. And when Agent Brent Calloway took that oath, he would have to explain why he pulled over a black woman attorney with no cause, the day after she won against him in federal court. He would have to explain the group message. He would have to explain you people. And for the first time, he would not control the street. He would answer to the law. The courtroom was packed long before the hearing started. Law students filled the back rows. Reporters lined the walls. Community members stood quietly along the sides. The air felt heavy, like everyone knew something important was about to happen. Agent Brent Calloway walked in without looking at anyone. No badge on display this time. No tactical vest. Just a dark suit that didn't quite hide the tension in his shoulders. Alina Whitfield sat at the plaintiff's table with Naomi Clark and Irene Wallace beside her. She looked calm, focused. Not angry. Across the aisle, the federal defense team shuffled papers. Their lead counsel, Martin Hale, adjusted his glasses and leaned toward Calloway, whispering something short and firm. Calloway nodded once. The judge, Honorable Lydia Grant, entered the courtroom. Everyone stood. This was not a jury trial yet. This was a key evidentiary hearing tied to motions and sworn testimony. But everyone understood something. Today would shape everything that followed. Calloway was sworn in. He raised his right hand. He promised to tell the truth. And then the questioning began. Martin Hale started first, trying to frame the stop as routine. Agent Calloway, Hale began, did you believe you were acting within your lawful authority on the afternoon of May 14th? Yes, Calloway said. Did you intend to target Ms. Whitfield because of her race? No. Did you intend to retaliate against her for her legal work? No. His answers were short, controlled. Then it was Alina's turn. She stood slowly. No rush, no drama. She approached the podium. Her voice was steady. Agent Calloway, she began, you stated you believed you were acting within your lawful authority. What specific traffic violation justified the stop? Calloway shifted slightly. There was suspicious behavior. What behavior? A sudden lane shift. Alina didn't look at her notes. Is there dashcam footage of that lane shift? No. Body camera footage? No. So we are relying solely on your memory? Yes. Alina paused just long enough for the silence to register. Agent Calloway, she continued, were you present in federal court the morning of May 14th? Yes. In a case where I represented a detained asylum applicant? Yes. And that applicant was released? Yes. She nodded once. Do you recall sending a message to fellow agents the night before my stop? Calloway hesitated. I send many messages. Alina held up a printed page. Let me refresh your memory. She read clearly. She thinks court wins means something. Let's see how confident she feels outside the courtroom. The courtroom grew still. Calloway's jaw tightened. Did you send that message? Alina asked. Yes. And that message was sent less than 24 hours before you stopped me. Yes. Was that coincidence? Calloway didn't answer immediately. It was frustration, he said. Frustration, Alina repeated. At a court ruling. Yes. So you were frustrated that I won a lawful case. I was frustrated at how the system was being manipulated. Manipulated by whom? She asked. He looked directly at her. By people who don't respect enforcement. The tone shifted. There it was again. The edge. Alina kept her voice even. When you approached my vehicle, did you say, you got papers on you? Yes. Boy. Standard identification request. Is that standard language used when speaking to licensed attorneys in downtown Atlanta? No response. She repeated the question. No, he admitted. Why use that language? Calloway's face hardened. You represent individuals who violate immigration law. That was not my question. Silence. Judge Grant leaned forward slightly. Agent, answer directly. Calloway exhaled slowly. It was a figure of speech. The courtroom reacted with quiet disbelief. Alina did not. When you said you people always think you can play both sides, who were you referring to? Defense attorneys. Only defense attorneys? Yes. Not black attorneys. No. Not me specifically. No. She held up another document. An internal message from 2 weeks earlier. These lawyers forget what they are. Did you write this? She asked. Yes. What did you mean by what they are? He hesitated longer this time. It was frustration. That is not an answer. Martin Hale stood. Objection. Judge Grant looked at Calloway. You won't answer. Calloway's voice lowered. I meant they are not the ones enforcing the law. Alina stepped slightly closer. So when you said what they are, you meant they should know their place. Hale objected again. Overruled. Calloway swallowed. I meant they shouldn't interfere. By practicing law? She asked. Silence. That silence said more than any argument could. Alina returned to her table calmly. The damage was visible. The defense tried to recover, arguing operational discretion. They emphasized national security authority. But the facts were now clear. He knew who she was. He was angry she won. He sent a message suggesting he would confront her. He stopped her without recorded cause. He used language tied to identity and power. And he admitted frustration influenced his actions. By the end of the hearing, even those who supported strict enforcement policies looked uneasy. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. One asked Alina directly, do you believe Agent Calloway abused his power because you're a black woman? She answered simply, "I believe he abused his power because he thought he could." That line spread almost as fast as the original video. Inside the ICE regional office, Director Alan Rhodes faced mounting pressure. Internal investigations expanded, emails were reviewed, patterns were examined, and something else surfaced. 3 prior complaints against Calloway, all involving stops of minority professionals, all dismissed internally. Until now, the case was no longer just about one afternoon on Peachtree Street. It was about culture, authority, and whether accountability applied to federal badges. Judge Grant scheduled the trial date. It would move forward. And when it did, a jury would decide whether that stop was lawful or whether it was retaliation wrapped in a badge. The city waited, because the next phase would not just question words. It would calculate consequences. The trial lasted 6 days. 6 long, focused, intense days. No drama for show, no shouting matches, just evidence, clear and sharp. The jury included teachers, a small business owner, a retired nurse, a delivery driver, and a college student. 12 people who had no reason to favor either side. 12 people who watched every second closely. From the first day, the defense tried to frame the stop as routine enforcement. They argued that federal agents must make fast decisions. They said frustration does not equal discrimination. They said poor wording does not equal retaliation. But then the video played again, on a large courtroom screen, clear audio. "You got papers on you?" Some jurors shifted in their seats. Then the second clip played. "You people always think you can play both sides." The courtroom stayed quiet. Helena did not look at the jury while the clips played. She looked straight ahead. The prosecution laid out the timeline in simple order. Night before the stop, angry group message. Morning of the stop, Alina wins in federal court. Afternoon, she is pulled over without recorded cause. On the stand, Travis Boone testified carefully. He was nervous. "Did Ms. Whitfield commit a traffic violation?" The plaintiff's counsel asked. "I did not observe one," Boone admitted. "Did Agent Calloway say he recognized her?" "Yes." "Did he appear angry?" Boone hesitated. "Yes." The defense tried to soften it. "Anger does not equal racism," Martin Hale argued during closing. He paced slowly. "Federal agents are human. Words can be misinterpreted. We cannot punish someone for frustration." Then Alina's counsel stood. Naomi Clark delivered the final argument. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't use complex language. She spoke plainly. "This case is not about disagreement. It is not about politics. It is about power." She paused. "When a federal agent loses in court and then uses his badge to confront the same attorney the next day, without cause, that is retaliation." She let that settle. "When that agent uses language tied to identity and tells her to remember who controls the streets, that is intimidation." Another pause. "And when that behavior is protected internally and so public cameras expose it, that is a system failure." The jury listened without blinking. Naomi ended simply. "No one is above the Constitution, not even those sworn to enforce it." Deliberations lasted 9 hours. 9 hours that felt like days. Alina waited in a quiet conference room. No press, no cameras. Naomi sat beside her. Iron paced slowly near the window. Julian checked updates on his phone but said little. There were no dramatic speeches. No nervous breakdowns. Just waiting. Around 4:40 p.m., the clerk knocked. The jury had reached a verdict. The courtroom filled again within minutes. Calloway sat rigid at the defense table, his face unreadable. Director Alan Rhodes sat behind him. Judge Lydia Grant entered. As the jury reached a verdict, "Yes, Your Honor." The foreperson stood. On the claim of unlawful stop in violation of constitutional rights, liable. On the claim of retaliation, liable. On the claim of equal protection violation, liable. The word echoed each time. Liable. 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 The courtroom remained controlled, but the weight was clear. Then came damages. Compensatory damages, $4.3 million. Punitive damages, $8.6 million. Total, $12.9 million. A quiet wave moved through the room. No cheering, no shouting, just understanding. Calloway stared forward. For the first time since that afternoon on Peachtree Street, he looked uncertain. Judge Grant thanked the jury. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Microphones stretched forward. One reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. What does this verdict mean? Alina stepped to the podium. Her voice was steady. It means the law applies to everyone. Another reporter asked, is this about race? She answered carefully. It's about accountability. But we cannot ignore context. Words matter. Power matters. And today, a jury decided that misuse of power has consequences. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. Because this wasn't victory in the simple sense. It was correction. Within weeks, ICE announced an internal review of training protocols in the Georgia region. Agent Brent Calloway resigned before formal disciplinary proceedings concluded. Travis Boone received a written reprimand but remained employed. Director Alan Rhodes was reassigned to administrative duties pending oversight review. The case became part of legal seminars across the country. Law schools studied it. Civil rights advocates cited it. Federal agencies reviewed stop procedures. And in Atlanta, something shifted. Not perfectly, not magically, but visibly. Because when people saw that verdict number, $12.9 million, it wasn't about money. It was about a message. You cannot lose in court and then try to win on the street. You cannot hide retaliation behind a badge. And you cannot tell a black woman attorney to remember her place, then expect silence. Months later, Alina walked past the same stretch of Peachtree Street. No cameras. No crowd. Just traffic moving normally. She didn't slow down. She didn't look around. She simply kept walking. Because the goal was never attention. The goal was balance. And on that street where flashing lights once tried to intimidate her into silence, the balance had been restored.